Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday, making it a few minutes past midday UTC. A big shout out, as always, to all of you that are watching this live, as well as everybody that watches this on recording. How are we doing, everyone? How are we doing? A lot of negative sentiment kicking about at the moment on Twitter and all these wonderful social spaces where people do love to talk a lot of nonsense. So how are we all doing? Everybody's been waiting for the dips. Now the dips seem to be here. Everybody seems to be panicking. I just thought I'd leave this chart up just for a bit of a laugh, guys. But I did invest into some Altcoin. I mean, it's the season, right? Just invest in ridiculous memes. Tits did incredibly well. The arse coin at one point was ripping, so why not Altcoin, right? But the truth is, we have teams that look these projects over, and this one has actually been really, really strong. So I tweeted about it recently, saying that I added a little bit more on this dip. Was expecting a flush in the market, in truth. So the reason for that is that we've come into a high pocket of high area of resistance. And it's just as simple as that, really. So I just really want to kind of cover off today how we can look at the markets in a really nice, simple, concise way to just strip away the noise and the panic. In fact, one of our members last night asked me, and I thought it was a really good question, how do you control your social media? So, all the noise, all the panic, that it gives people anxiety, people worry about stuff, which is natural. But I just explained, and this is 100% the truth, I only follow a few hundred people. Of those few hundred people that I follow, some of them are friends, others of those are companies that I have a lot of belief in. My Twitter is treated as a public journal where I bring you guys my ideas, my trade setups, what I'm looking at, promote partners that, that I have a lot of respect for, companies that I think are doing a lot of good in the space, or people that present good investment opportunities. Apart from that, I don't bother with any of it, really. Very few people I take notice of in terms of trading, because trading's my job. I don't want other people influencing me. I'll check in, or I'll see posts every now and again from price action traders, like people like Trader SC, Dante occasionally when he posts, GRC, people like that. My boy Macro, CRG, but they're on a very different kind of side of what I do, right? With the price action stuff, I'll drop in on people like SC because I still think he's probably the best price action trader out there. My boy Dank as well, but also because I've learned a lot from them over the years. I'm never ever going to let them influence the decision I make. However, I'll take my collective research always from people that I rely on before I make any investment decision, and then I hold that to target. I don't care if, the most prominent account in the world drops that this thing's going to zero. He doesn't trade, or she doesn't trade my system, right? So I think one thing to say, which I said this morning to members, was that you need to have that belief, the kind of the anxiety, the worry, stuff like that tends to manifest itself when we're uncertain of something. And trading is a game that is filled with uncertainty, right? So how do we get that certainty? We never do. You're never certain about anything. What you can control is your risk and your exposure and your system. So when you have a system that you believe in, that's when things start to click. And believe is a little bit of a loose word. So what do I mean by that? I mean a system that is tried and tested to the nth degree. This thing works over years and years of data. You've seen it play out over time. For example, I was reviewing my year to date, roughly approaching the 80R returns for the year. I was aiming for 100. All of those trades have been taken live with members. So for every $1, risks, we've made close to $80 back. Now that's it is quite a grind over here. You'll see some of these altcoins or some of these high risk assets, return more than that in a few days. But trading's a very, very different game. Now, the reason that I brought that up is because I was looking at my periods of drawdown, and there was a time I went through when I had, for me, which is a very big losing streak because I have a very risk averse system that has a high win rate, but a relatively low return. So for me, I went through a kind of 6 or 7 day spell, which spreads across 2 weeks because I trade the traditional market week. I typically don't trade on a Monday or a Friday. Sometimes I'll trade a Friday or a Monday if there's a very strong catalyst, but most of my trading is done Tuesday to Thursday on an intraday basis. And I noticed I basically had this 2 week losing spell, which was a huge anomaly in my data, which was back in April. And I looked at it and basically I just kept doing the same thing. And then May was arguably my biggest month of return. If I'd changed, if I'd tampered, if I'd messed about, if I'd let the anxiety and the worry get the better of me, that's when I would have been in a lot of trouble. So I just want to show you, not on the intraday basis, because I just think that it would be a bit much for people. Plus there's a lot of context that goes in, but very much so from a swing perspective, okay? And we're going to hopefully cover some real gems today, and then we're going to put them into action, hunting for those altcoin setups that we want to see today. So let me get a fresh page in my pad ready, and let's make sure that we're ready for any alt requests. So at the moment, we're obviously going to look at BTC, we're going to look at ETH, we're going to take a little look at Altcoin here as well. Why not, for the culture? Let's have a think about some others that we're going to look at as well. Or actually, why don't you guys have some suggestions? Anything you want me to take a look at? Oi, Gordon, Imran Khan, my brother, how are you doing? Ludwig, good to see you, my friend. Jojo, Pascal, everybody that's starting to come in. Really slow day today, guys. We're really struggling our way up towards 1,000 viewers. Normally, we end up at between sort of like 2,500 to 4,000. But let's see. People may be taking a little bit of shock by that. So let's just do a really, really fun, quick bit of TA here on Altcoin, shall we? Just while we're waiting for some others to come in. So look, just a real kind of, I would say one of the key things, you're going to have to bear with me as well. I don't know why trading views just been really slow the last couple of days. I think probably just getting a little bit overwhelmed. Now, one of the key things to do here, right? And let's just put these in a group. Is I first of all want to identify the high that's capping the market, yeah, or the low that's capping the market as well. Okay, so in this instance, when we're coming up into this space here, what are we looking at? We don't obviously have tons of data on these new coins as well, so we have to be very, very careful. And I will focus quite heavily on recency, right? So first thing that I lock my eyes in is this, right? There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that that's a key level. And if you don't get it right, just kind of put it on different highs and different lows, right? Until you get the best fit. It really is just, it's a game of best fit, right? Because you're looking at this, if you come back to this area, okay? So look, resistance. What do we get here? Resistance. What does this tell you? Look at the body on that candle. Yeah, it's got a slightly long upside wick, but it's just one hell of a close. The volume that's come in on that candle, right? And I don't mean, you can obviously apply this as well in terms of volume, but that's not what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, there's other better ways to measure volume and that on here as well. But what I'm talking about here is you can see the volume in the body of the candles, right? Like this one, this was a huge attempt to get above this level. The wick came back and closed below. That tells us that there's probably weakness here, that price, consolidates, ultimately, looking to pop. So what happens? Well, we get this period of consolidation here. Then we get the manipulation. And then we get the expansion, right? Very, very simple power of 3 premise, okay? And you will see this fractally across lots and lots of different time frames, okay? Basically, consolidation, trap people offside, take that liquidity, and then have the expansion, which often gives people very little time to get in. So straight away, and if you're struggling with that, just the thing that I do here is, let me hide this, is you can take out a horizontal ray, right? Now, let's say we thought that this was the key resistance, yeah? What I want you to do is, before you see any of this data over here, I want you to ask yourself, all right, well, what other engagements with that level do you have? Or are you just guessing that that's where price is going to reject? So then you can say, okay, well, what if you put it on the body of those candles? Ooh, all of a sudden, it's got a much better fit, right? So let's just make sure we're accurately on there, which we use our, wherever it's gone here. which we can use the magnet for, but we just draw that in there. So then all of a sudden, as I look across here, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, almost 5, almost 6. I don't need it to be perfect here, but what I can then say is, okay, well, how can I make it? I have to anchor this to a wick or a body. That's my rules anyway. So as I go down to here, okay, well, this all of a sudden makes a lot of sense. Resistance, resistance. What's this? Deviation. Price gets underneath, retests it, and sells off. Yeah. Just think about this. You're talking about auction theory here, market auction theory, where basically you're looking for price to get into an agreed range. So this is where price is seen as value. Yeah, the value low being at 0.2412, the value high being around 45,003. Price then ranges around in this area. And basically, it's a decision between buyers and sellers whether this is value at that level. Imagine that it's apples. Yeah. So all of a sudden, your local high street has 10 greengrocers and plus, half a dozen supermarkets all selling apples. And what does that do? It gives you an oversupply of apples. So that drives the price down, right? Because you've got too much of a product. That product isn't considered value. They're charging £1 an apple. Are they mad, right? So that drives the price down because then the price needs to come lower to find buyers, right? Then when we see the buyers stepping in here, yeah, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, it's down to 20p an apple now. Well, okay, actually, at 20p an apple, I'm a buyer here. Then a few of the supermarkets start to close, and then a few of the greengrocers start to close. All of a sudden, there's less people selling apples. That drives the quality up, also drives the price up. Then all of a sudden, people really want apples. Fresh fruit, key staple part of the diet. So what happens when people really want them? Well, then you'll get to a point where this is the area previously where people were saying, no, we're not willing to pay more than that. All right. So then what happens is you wait for a breakout of that area. All of a sudden, people are pretty horny for apples here. People are like, sod it, I don't care. I'll pay £2 an apple if it's a high quality apple, right? And obviously, I can't get hold of them very easily. So then what happens is more people come and they say, well, I want the same apples, but there's only a certain amount of apples. There's not many of them, right? So then price just keeps getting driven up until it gets to an area where it's trying to find true value, okay? That's why we get price consolidating. That's why you get these runs on price and also why you get corrective moves, okay? So as I'm looking here, just always keep that in your mind. People overcomplicate this, right? People overcomplicate this in crypto, okay? I'm just taking a very quick look at the comments as well. We have got the dip, you're right, Imran. Rob, yes, certainly, mate. Ondo. Have a look at Ondo. Nit, how you doing, brother? Jojo, we can certainly look at XRP. I love me a bit of XRP. And KRN88NL, another one of our legendary members over at the Nest. Of course we can, mate. We'll take a look at VRA. There we go. And how are you doing, Eric? Are you good this morning? Hopefully doing well. Well, this afternoon now. Right, so let's dive in a little bit deeper. So how does this help us? Well, quite simply, if I just zoom in here, you can only deal with the data that you've got. All right. So as we're looking in here, I'm saying, well, where's the key support and resistance here? Look at the wicks, right? If you don't have order blocks, if you don't have gaps to go by, just look at the wicks, especially on the daily. So this wick here, for example, is a key support level. Now, was a key resistance. Why? Because it stopped price here. What happened? Price closes above it. Then you want to see the buyers step in here. So let's imagine people sold that here. Yeah. And people are going, right, I have sold the crap out of this here, right? And this is going lower. Now, all of a sudden, price reverses on them and they go, oh dear. They've not set a hard stop loss. This is just indicative. Then when you see price running quite hot the other way, then you see it struggling to close below, the chances are very high that these people mitigate their risk. Price comes close to their entry here. So they say, okay, no problem. I'm going to sell this at a bit of a loss, or I'm going to cover myself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to position myself long from here, because the delivery state has definitely changed, okay? That's why we see these resistance to support flips. Sellers were selling this. They've now been proven wrong, or they think that they're wrong. Buyers start to step in. People that were short close their positions out or have their stop losses taken out, and that creates a load of liquidity up here to drive the price higher. So key support resistance level there, key support resistance level here, right? Just look at them. Just watch the wicks. Just say, tries to get down, fails, tries to get down, fails, tries to get down, fails. That's absorption. Tries to get higher, fails, tries to get higher, fails. Absorption, deviation, closes below. What happens? Price runs back down to the next level of support. It then confirms that this is a good area of value. People are happy to be buyers here. So then price is obviously going to go up. So that's always a good way to look at it. So as I'm looking at this, then I'm also looking at this level here. Resistance, resistance, resistance. I want to see price close above this and hold this level. Now, I'm then just going to take this from a daily to an hourly, and then I'm going to say, okay, well, Christ, this makes a lot of sense. So what was capping the market here? This wick. Well, there was obviously strong resistance there at that wick as well, right? So let me zoom in. So I've got my level here based on the daily. Now, I know that stopped the market there, but what about this wick? Yeah? That's pretty interesting to me because it's obviously not just this wick that stopped the market, is it, here? So I'm looking for an area. So I'm going to fix to that wick. And then I'm going to draw this along here. And quite simply, you know, I will then project that forward if price kind of comes back to that area. But this is the area. Deviation, retest, price sells up. Where are you wrong? Well, you know where you're wrong. Wrong below here. This is exactly where your risk is. Yeah? So buyer here, you don't get shaken out here. It just doesn't come low enough because you're not silly enough to put your stop below there. Or maybe you are, in which case then you do get stopped out and you learn for the next one. And that's what we look at, right? So then let's move up to the next one, this line. So we've already got this line in play, right? We know this is here. So again, I'm going to focus on the wicks. Here's the major wick. Here's the one before it that's obviously acted as some form of resistance as well. So there we go. As soon as we close above this, I look for the area to hold and then I'm long. Look for the area to hold, then I'm long. Then when we close below it like we did here, then I want to see price consolidate here a little bit. Then if we break down, that's where I'll short it. All right. You know, I'm not interested in just blindly shorting this, right? Because I just don't know if this is going lower. Ultimately, when we're in bullish market conditions, the chances are that this is a deviation. And that's what's pushed price higher. Okay, so then when we come back to this area like we did here, then I'm still a buyer here, right? To be a seller, I would need price to first of all close below, and you'd want a big body close. We give the state of that candle, right? A big body close like this. It doesn't matter if it's got a little wick. You don't want to see a massive wick. You don't want to see that absorption coming the other way. Then you want to see this area tested as resistance, right? You want to see price hold there. Same as this one here, right? If we just get rid of those for a minute. Look what happened here. People getting really horny on the breakout here. It's like, okay, no problem. Doesn't matter if you got trapped here as well, because when you go underneath it here, that's when you know that price is almost certainly seeking out the next level of support, okay? Okay, really good question here from Rob. How do we consider whether it's strong or weak? Basically, when you look at an area, a lot of people will say there's a few different things you can think of here. So there's a classic trading pattern known as the 3 drive, yeah, or 3 drives. So you have to forgive me because trading these are really slow. So let's say 1, 2, 3, and then price goes. Look, for me, I never know how strong an area of support or resistance is. This could have flicked straight through it on the first go. So what I do is I identify the areas and then I look for price to tell me what it's doing, like this. Dips into this area, right? See how quickly it's back above. Yeah, down and back above, right? Now let's look at the opposite here, right? What happens? In, away, in, away, in, away, sells off, yeah? What you're looking for here is something like this, price to get up, price to hold this level, and you can keep longing this until it fails to work. Then when you see key liquidity sweeps, if you're short here, and then price gets back above, you cut the short and then you look for longs. Okay, so I would just say once you start to identify the key levels, so again, for this one, there's the wick, there's the upper wick. If we want to know well and truly where the breakout is, for me, it's very rarely a line, it's more often a box, yeah? Because this is where price tried, failed, failed, failed. This area here would provide an immense base for us to hold this here. Once we establish ourselves above here, yeah, that's when we can start looking for long positions higher. All right. So just a really, really interesting way to check them. Yeah. Okay. So like Pascal says here as well, does it make sense to check order blocks here? Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is probably favor your high probability order blocks, right? Just get rid of a few of these bits. Yeah, probably favor your high probability order blocks. So what you want to do is you want to find order blocks that have swept liquidity. Yeah, so you see this here, See these down candles that took liquidity below this low, and this whole move took liquidity below these lows. These consecutive down close candles here are a higher probability order block. I make an allowance for the top of the bodies down to the bottom of the wicks. And then for me, that's a key area to buy. Again, look how it overlays the support area, right? So in the same vein, if we look at this here, what was this? This was the up move that swept liquidity above this high. So if we're now looking at the candle bodies here, if we look at the candle body from the low up to the top of the wick, yeah, that whole area there, yeah, that whole area here, if you have an abnormal sized wick like that, if it's too large, you know, you can take it down to the bodies. You know, ultimately you see the same deviation here, right? But look, this is just an area of supply. Price can't drive past it. So every time you drive into it, 1, 2, 3, price sells off. So it's worth noting those areas. What I would just say, order books. Sorry, mate, I think said order blocks. Well, both are relevant. No, I mean, I do check order book data. For me, it can sometimes provide just a little bit too much noise. That's probably why I read yours as order block rather than order book. Yeah, skimming them really, really fast. So anyway, they're the kind of principles of it. Yeah, I will check the order book, especially the depth chart, just to see which side is really coming in. I obviously want to see the paywalls as well. All right, you know, so just see where people are positioning large amounts of buy or sell orders to try and keep price from that level. The other thing that I will do is look at kind of liquidity heat maps occasionally as well, to just find out, first of all, where positions are building. Yeah, so if you go onto a liquidity heat map, I don't think I've got one open here. Let me find one for you. Let's find one for you very quickly, because I really do think that people get these quite badly wrong as well. So this is obviously for BTC, just going to show you very, very quickly. So look, if I'm looking to long from here, normally I use 3-day data, right? But so let's put this on the 3-day if I'm swing trading. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for these key areas here. So look at the amount of liquidity. See, the more green and yellow the area, yeah, the more liquidity is building up. Now, the tricky thing is here, it can be seen in one of two ways. Look at the previous thick yellow line here. Look at when price rejected here from this green cluster, how price ultimately came back down to find this yellow line first, then this, and then this. The difficult thing about looking at this kind of liquidity data is, does the market reverse here? Does it reverse here? Does it reverse here? You don't know until it does. But what you can do is you can look, let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit for you guys here. Yeah, one thing that you can look for here is you can look for structure shifts. Yeah, so lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, taking liquidity, still taking liquidity, still taking liquidity. Ultimately, we get this beautiful pin bar candle here, and this is where we shift structure, right? So if we've shifted structure there, right, as we can see, let's refresh that quickly because it is a pain in the backside to move on this thing. Right, as we can see here, shifted structure here. Now price is seeking liquidity higher. I don't know if it's going for here or here. The other thing to say is that this is also the buildup of stop losses because people are starting to get long from these levels. Yeah. So this is, you know, buyers stepping in. This is where we see that absorption. So that's what I would look for there. The other thing that I use that Jojo says that I very rarely talk about, actually, because I just think that there's much more proficient users of this than me, is volume profile, right? Now, I know this is on an hourly. Some people say, you don't really look at it on an hourly, but I don't really care what other people say, to be honest. I think it's much more about kind of making your own mind up and then ultimately, you know, backing the data up to find it. I've seen people trade successfully looking at moon cycles, for Christ's sake. I just think if you've got the data and you've got the system, just back it. So let's put this in as live levels on the 18th, all right? Of the 24th. The 24th? Jesus Christ, what's wrong with my brain today? 18th of the 12th. 24th. There we go. Right, so we click them back on in a minute. Now we're just going to look at this, all right? Now I'm saying to myself, okay, if I want this on a daily, I need to find areas of consolidation, of which I don't have any. So it doesn't really mean a lot to me. How you would have looked at it, when this area had consolidated, for example, I would have taken it from the consolidation through. I think this is going to include this data up here as well, unfortunately. So, you know, and then you're looking for sweeps of the value area low, we've reclaimed the point of control here. Then when we break out of this level, exactly the same way as we do with any range, yeah, we get that breakout of that level, and then price, ultimately goes up. Difficult to do this with, with backwards facing data. But if I'm looking at this up here, I'm then going down to a time frame where I can at least see some form of consolidation. It's a little bit ugly here. And that's why I actually think, you'd have to be doing this obviously very much on an intraday basis. But here's the expansion. When I'm looking to draw ranges, I'm looking for an expansion move first. Yeah. So as I look at this expansion here, then I would say, okay, let's take the volume profile from here. And then quite simply, you can see what you have here. It just makes you a range. Yeah. So low, back inside, long, low, back inside, long, deviation, close back in, aim for the value area low. Really, really nice kind of straightforward way to look at it. But then I always want to overlay that with support and resistance, right? I don't just want to ever rely on one thing like that. So if I pop that back on, yeah, all of a sudden you have the perfect confluence here. You're like, God, this is a big area of support and this is a big area of resistance. So until we get a clean breakout above or below one or the other, chances are, as price has done all the way through here, is it's just going to ping pong around, because this is obviously considered value for Altcoin until you get that breakout, right? Or you get the breakout to the downside. It doesn't have to be to the upside, right? So that's what we're looking at. Right, so let's take a rip through some charts, shall we? So what was the other one? We had NBA, Young Believe. I love that. Great name. Yes. So can we look at SUI? We can indeed, my friend. So we're going to look at SUI as well. So what we got so far is BTC, ETH, Altcoin. I think we'll leave Altcoin here at the moment. I think we've done that. So Ondo, XRP, VRA, and SUI. Perfect. 30 minutes to rock through all of those. Let's go. So Bitcoin. This is an interesting one, actually. Very, very interesting. I don't know why TradingView is moving so slowly today. It really is kind of on its own time, I think. So as we can see at the moment, the plan's working out pretty well. Yeah, so we left this on here from the show, talking about the mother bar high, looking for price to come down to this level, refill the rest of that, take that low, reclaim the mother bar high, and now we're pumping again. In truth, I'm not disappointed. I thought we would get this move, but I'm really hoping for lower. I really, really want to see this thing a lot lower. I don't think we've had really a substantial retest of this region here, which I'd love to see. Basically, I think as we kind of move to a higher time frame here, we just get rid of the... I was pretty sure that I'd made an inside bar. There we go. Let's get rid of the inside bar for a moment. And then we're just going to highlight all of these bits, and then we'll start with a cleaner chart. Perfect. Right, so let's look at the daily. Bitcoin, where are we on the daily? Let's just get rid of these for a minute as well. Let's start with a nice clean chart, shall we? Right, here we go. So, what do we know? What does all this tell us? Well, quite simply, what we're doing is we're looking for key levels of support and resistance, and then we're also looking for gaps, highs, and lows. So, what are we looking for in here? Well, I want to know what's currently affecting this candle, because that's what makes the most of me. Greetings, young NBA Believe. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. So this is the gap that's holding the market at the moment. Price has just dipped down into. We'll do it green for anybody that's maybe new to learning about gaps, right? So quite simply, if I'm then dragging this back here as well, I'm just looking for any real obvious, remember like we did before, any real obvious support and resistance levels, like this one, for example. Yeah. You could also take it from this here, and then you include the ones at the top. Or what you could do is, as I've kind of shown you before, a good way to do it is kind of say, okay, well, that's capping the market there and that's capping the market above it. So do I need the lines? Probably not. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you can see a really kind of clear area where resistance, resistance, resistance. Yeah. Price gets above, sells up, closes below, fake out. So that's a deviation when price gets above, support, support, and then it sells off. Okay, pretty interesting that actually, right? I mean, there's an argument, this massive scam wick here as well. If we draw this across, yeah, resistance just doesn't really have enough touch points below for me, but there's no doubt that that was a massive sell as soon as we hit that level, right? So as soon as we hit that level, so we're interested to see what price does when it gets back there. If there was that much selling pressure before, buyers have stepped in here. The retest confirms it, and we're seeing this level hold now as well, so it's certainly not insignificant. However, on a daily scale, the clearest and most obvious thing for me here on the charts is this. The expansion move higher, the correction, now we're holding this gap. So if I now move to a 4-hour, I have so many recent folders on this thing, Erica. I promised myself over Christmas that I'm gonna just shank them all back quite considerably. All right. So then now we're on the 4-hour. I want to look to see how relevant this is, and you can see that there's resistance, right, all the way through here. If anything, I might want to kind of say, well, actually, does it make a big difference if I come down to here, or do I want to get these involved? I'd certainly want to get these highs involved here. There's no problem in finessing this as you kind of move forward through it. The key thing is it has to make sense. And on a daily scale, it looks good, but maybe there's something else here on a lower time frame that looks good. All right. For example, I'll show you on the hourly how we kind of move this level in across here. But this is the daily gap, right? So now we're in the daily gap. I'm now on the 4-hour, and I'm saying, okay, what do I need to see here to see some kind of resurgence? Well, this is a good start. Pin bar candle followed by an engulfing candle. However, where is price delivering from? On a daily, we were delivering from a bullish gap. However, on a 4-hour, we're delivering very much from a bearish gap. Okay, so we need to see this bearish gap overcome. Quite simply, what I want to see for continuation is price close above this bearish gap. We've got 3 hours, 26 minutes for it to do so. Then we close above this gap. I look for this area to hold, and then we're making a move on all-time highs again. Okay, so that's really simple on the 4-hour for me. So I'm like, okay, no problem. Now, on the 4-hour, I don't really have a super clear idea on the support and the resistance levels, right? I'll tell you as for why, because I'm looking at this here. Even this looks a little bit messy, but when you really zoom in, look, resistance, this area doesn't quite get to it, but still resistance, deviation. This area here is what bothers me because it's so messy. But actually, as we look at it, yeah, if you really kind of focus in on it, what happens? Price comes up, closes below, right? You get this retest, it still pushes down until we get above, then holds this area and consolidates before it pumps, closes below here, retests this and sells off. Closes above here, retests this and moves higher. Okay, so there's definitely relevance there. But on a 4-hour, the first thing my eyes are looking at are the wicks, right? So I want to see these key wicks, especially the ones that lead to large moves, right? They're the real kind of key thing for me here is the wicks that lead to large moves. All right, so this one here, that one, I kind of take it or leave it, but you can ultimately see that there's some kind of, resistance there. So what we're going to do, I mean, TradingView is becoming unusably slow at the moment, guys. Apologies if this is tweaking on your end. I don't know what the hell's up with it. I've done multiple system checks this morning, and this thing is running like lightning, so it must be a problem. Probably just so many people using it. Jesse, hello, mate. Whack, how you doing, brother? BC, hi, can we say near? Yeah, sure, maybe take a look at near. So now I'm going to say to myself, well, I can kind of see there's something here, but it looks a bit messy. So if I move to the hourly, now the hourly for me, this really stood out. Okay. So even starting here, remember what I said, I'm highlighting these key wicks, right? Wicks that lead to large down moves. So ones like this, one's like this, one's like this. Then I'm interested in this here because I can see there's a move down. So this here led to the pump. Then we retested it here. Yeah, so this area, that led to the pump. That was resistance. Yeah, and then when we got back underneath it, that acted as resistance as well. So there's something through this area. And if we line it up with these here, if I'm looking at this, I'm saying to myself, okay, well, there's probably something in this kind of area here, right? Let me get rid of all my little dots. You know, these areas will never be perfect, right? You'll sit there and you'll tweak and you'll mess about with them. You'll go like, oh, okay, it should be there. But just think of it like this, right? This, for example, when we had this breakout, I remember saying to everybody, members, Twitter as well is very vocal. Remember at the time we didn't have this bullish gap above us, right? Price came here, took this liquidity, and look at the long upside wick. I said, I want to see a full-bodied candle close above this, and then I want to see a little bit of consolidation, and then price can run. Well, ultimately, what happened was we got this kind of large body of the candle, but the long upside wick told me that as we've taken this higher, sellers were still very present here, all right? The difference with this one and this breakout on this wick was look at the body. It was just all body. You just see people really stepped in here. Now, with this one, we basically broke down and then we lost structure and we started just going down further. So that was pretty easy, right? What did allow us to do is kind of say to ourselves, all right, well, we've got this kind of diagonal here. When we break out above that, it probably gives us a little bit more information. Now, when we had this pump, look at the difference here. So this, we had one candle, then bearish candle, bearish pin bar, bearish engulfing. Okay, fine. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullish candles here. Deviation, price ripped back through. Also, look, this was the deviation to the higher. Price then came lower. Price has got no right coming higher again if the market is selling off. Excuse me. If the market's selling off here, it's got no right to come higher. If it comes higher, it just basically means that this has trapped people on the wrong side of the market and then this moves. So what can you wait for if you want extra confirmation? Jesus Christ, come on, TradingView. Right. Sweep of a low to confirm the deviation, the high that swept the low, and that's where you can be a buyer. All right, high that swept the low, displacement above it, you can be a buyer in here, you can be a buyer here, which is the breaker block, you can be a buyer here, which is the fair value gap that's left. Right, that's why, you know, entry wise and that, it's fine. You can always find a way to enter. You want to be consistent with your entries, because otherwise what you'll do is you'll back test stuff and you will just turn around and say like, it's all right, I wouldn't have taken this entry, I would have taken a breaker. So just try and use the same entry method whenever you go into these points, because otherwise you'll start to kid yourself that you'll always find an entry. So in here, really simple, volume breakout, price retested this area. If we'd broken down from here, yeah, then fine, I can leave that. If we get back below here again, then I'm pretty certain that this thing's selling off down to at least here, okay? So we're just looking for those key, clear and obvious points of support and resistance, all right? Now, for me in here, right, there's another one here. Why? Because, again, look at the wicks, right? Now, I know we didn't have a massive sell-off on this wick, but there's a cluster of upside wicks. This was a big pump. So if the buyers were here previously, why wouldn't they be here again? Yeah, so if I want to look at that and just take that as a kind of area, this is where I'm becoming interested. All right, that's why I said again about using that area as somewhere that we can buy. We can look back historically and say, all right, well, what does this come back to? So it comes back to the high of these candles, right? Even if you want to adjust it up a little bit and say, okay, well, let's make sure we're including all the wicks. Yeah, sorry, all the bodies. We've got the wicks. Yeah, that's where price couldn't get beyond. Look at the sharpness of the sell-off here. Look at the explosion beyond it, and then look at the retest. So when we go back here, kind of a natural place to buy, really. And then the difficult thing for here, you'd have to have your risk under here, right? So you see the draw into this, and then we pop off. Pitt, amazing trader who works with us over at the Bird Nest, put a brilliant call out this morning, like on Popcat and that, I think, because he plays these bounces so beautifully. But that's what we're looking at, all right? So look, that's where we are with Bitcoin. Yeah, I think it's TradingView that belongs in the naughty corner today, I have to say. So, all right, let's do that same approach, right? And we're going to spend the next 20 minutes smashing out Ethereum, Ondo, XRP, VRA, SUI, and NEAR. All right. So let's take a look. And I agree with you, Jojo Lee. It has been. I think it's probably being a bit overwhelmed. Look, I've got a lot of time and respect for the people of TradingView. They're a wonderful sponsor. They treat me incredibly well, but it just, some things do annoy me. And obviously, if you're reliant on this professionally, as we are, especially, or for any of you, you want it to be working, right? So we know where we are here. If we just quickly put one of the rectangles back on, we know we've got a daily gap here as well. So see how confluence, daily gap, expect a bounce. 1 hour support resistance level. What is it? Support, expecting a bounce. You can be in here, right? And let's say you did just put it on the top of this and you're playing it up to this. You've got a 1.6, 1.75 move and a 0.86. You're over 2R up already just playing this bounce here. Yeah. Again, you've got to understand the type of trader you are, what type of trader, what type of time horizon you're taking these investments on. As an intraday play, that's absolutely lovely. So let's overlay these same principles, shall we? And let's do it. Let's take a look. Let's get a nice clean chart up, shall we? Let's get across to, let's get the Binance chart. I don't think we've charted on this one for a while. Awesome. So ETH, what are we looking at with Ethereum? Well, again, hang on. Must have something back here somewhere that says ranges. Okay, maybe not. I'll tell you what, let's do it on. Where's our fam over at Bluefin? Blowfin, here we go. Blowfin, you beauties. I don't think I've charted on this one. No, there we go. Not on the spot contracts. I use the perps. Right, so this one for me is glaringly obvious. Like, mentally obvious this thing was going to stop here. Right? Now, I know we don't have older data on this one, right? But it doesn't matter because I'm looking at the recency here. And what I'm saying is, where are the obvious places on this chart? It's the last time I'm going to say it, then I'm just going to rip through the charts. Where are the obvious places before we get to here that price has been stopped? This region here. Why? Because price came to this region and then had a major sell-off. It came back to it again and had a major sell-off again. So why would we not expect things to be any different? Then it's more of a case of saying to yourself, okay, what's the best fit here? Again, start with your lines. What would I be looking for here? If I was looking for a high that basically capped all of this, where would it be? It's not that one because that's too high. That one covers most of it. That one basically covers almost all of it, right? So as I go in here, rejection, 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 deviation, retest, sell-off, beautiful. Rejection, rejection, retest the underside. Doesn't quite get it, right? So what can we do? We get our box again and we go, exactly right, stuck at supply. Yeah, so if I look at this here, I can say, okay, well, what if I take it from this low of this body? Yeah, and then just make an allowance for the wicks. Why not? Just look at the whole area or just make an allowance for the bodies because you still want to know if price closes above this area. Either way, now as I project this forward, we can get rid of the line and say, well, this is the area we need to overcome, right? Not to mention the fact we already saw a rejection here before. Now it's showing strength that it's got back here again, right? But ultimately what we want to see really, because look what happened here. Came in, rejected once, rejected twice, consolidated, and really ran away. If we now look at the opposite of that, if I'm now looking at all these downside wicks here, yeah, and I'm saying to myself, okay, a little bit of a large area here. Something I like is this consolidation here. Right? Why do I like that consolidation there? Well, quite simply, this is the down move here before price ripped higher. And I've now got these downside wicks here. So I'm just going to anchor to them, make sure that I've got the area. And then I'm going to look, how does this play out? Fine, I don't get this wick, but I don't really care. I get this consolidation and these wicks lower before this pump. Perfect. Retest it, big pump. What happens? Close below it here, yeah? And then we're selling off. The only thing I would say is as I look at these downside wicks here, I kind of want this area to be lower, yeah? Because I want something that kind of incorporates that as well. So I either have to move this and have a much larger area, yeah, to incorporate those, just a little bit too large for me, right? So what I would say is I would actually tighten this area up to the bodies here and say that looks pretty good. support, 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 support. This whole area here, if anything, probably a little bit higher into that. Yeah, because flip, retest, sells, flip, retest, sells, yeah, or sells, sorry, buyers up to the highs. So look at the difference here, right? When we were coming into support, look how price consolidates and continues higher. Support consolidates, continues higher. What happens here? Consolidates at resistance, continues lower, right? So what does this tell us? When we get above here, yeah? So we're actually consolidation to the pump. This actually rips above, steps on top of this consolidation area and then moves. So that's what we want to see here from ETH. To be absolute, to be as safe as possible, excuse me, you want to see price kind of get above this area. Kind of have that bullish move and then consolidate and then move up from here. At the moment, what we're getting are rejections. Yeah. So you want to see price stick in this area. I want to see price kind of break higher and then kind of consolidate in and around here. That tells me then that the buyers are starting to get comfortable at this level, and the chances are that we're then looking for another leg up. Until then, I'm not really particularly interested. I then want to be a buyer lower down. Yeah. And if I'm looking lower down, I can do one of two things. I can split this area, yeah, roughly 50%, which would be around here. Or I look for the kind of recency on, you know, say this wick to these wicks. And then if I draw it back from here, I can see that we come into this consolidation here as well. If I drop it back further, we can see that we find support here. And look, not all of these boxes have to go across your entire screen, but look, this is a key consolidation that led to a really big dump. This acts as resistance, this acts as resistance. We close above here. This then small consolidation, price pumps, dips into it again, pumps again. So this is where I want to be a buyer, right? That's where I want to be a buyer on ETH. If I drop it down to the 4 hour, right, and we zoom ourselves in here, quite simply, we have a strong move and we start holding above here. If we start to break down more, I'm not saying, excuse me, I would actively short this market, but I like these lows down here, right? You've got a very inefficient move here that's left gaps. The market loves to rebalance those gaps, all right, gaps like this. So if we look at this as a whole move and then we take our Fibonacci as well, I'm saying to myself, okay, right, we're at the 0.5. This is a good place to hold. If price is going to go into bullish continuation here, this is the consolidation. You want price to hold above the 50 and we move from there. If not, we target the golden pocket and our key buy zone, which happens to line up perfectly with these gaps. So that's an area I'm interested, or I'm interested down here. And then quite simply, I move to a lower time frame. I wait for price to engage with the key level that I'm after. Yeah, I look for a sweep of local liquidity within support. Yeah, on a higher time frame, I then wait for that high to be broken. And then I want to be a buyer in here. I can be a buyer on the top line. I can be a buyer on the breaker. I can be a buyer on the pullback. I can be a buyer on the inversion. Whatever it is, that's what I'm waiting for. If I don't get that, I'm just then patiently waiting for price to have a breakout above here, to hold here, and then do the same. Yeah. Same pattern, just once on the breakout, another one from either within this area here, and it would have to be strong, or if not, key area is down here. All right. Very, very, very simple stuff, right? Or hopefully it sounds simple anyway. Excuse me. Solomon K, how you doing, brother? Stay blessed yourself, my friend. Stay blessed yourself and everybody else in this wonderful time of year. Although, really horrible time of year for a lot of people, right? So remember, if you are making money in this market, guys and girls, then make sure to pay it forward, yeah? Go and help people less fortunate than you. Go and help family, go and help friends, go and, you know, share your knowledge, your wisdom, your money if you can. I've been posting recently about a dog shelter over in Thailand. You can find the information on my post. I had huge respect for the guy, Niall, Irish guy who runs that, was a, you know, alcoholic, unbelievable guy in technology, turned his whole life around. He goes out there and gives every penny that he earns basically to help the street dogs in Thailand, which is probably, I'd imagine, something I will end up doing one day. Not necessarily in Thailand, but that's the kind of dream of mine. So every year I make sure that I give, you know, a very healthy portion of what I earn to charity and to help other people. And honestly, if you do that, I do believe that you know, you get that back in life. But anyway, so that is ETH. Now we're going to rip through the next 10 minutes Ondo, XRP, VRA, SUI, and NEAR. All right, so let's go straight onto Ondo, shall we? And I'm not going to talk these ones through, guys, right? I'm just going to rip through them, all right? Right, Ondo. So Ondo's looking good. Super, super strong. Huge breakouts. One more thing I will say is when you're watching these levels, Pitt, my brother from another mother. This is Poland's very finest price action trader here, ladies and gentlemen. I keep shilling his Twitter account, but nobody effing follows him. So, which I don't mind actually, because then he stays my own little gem, you see. My own little gem in my own little world. Or our own little world. But let me grab you his Twitter, because honestly, unless you hate money, you got to be following this guy. And I know most of you won't listen to me, but I don't really mind, to be honest. More liquidity for us to go and gobble up. But wonderful to see you here, Pip. Pip, very much from the same school of price action that I am. So we have a lot in common and many laughs shared, as well as trade setups. So when I'm looking at these big moves, I'm just looking to see, are the down close candles, the bearish candles here, for example, are they supporting price action? The answer is yes. How do we tell that? Well, quite simply, that is legendary NBA Young Believe. Love that, my friend. Pay it forward, mate. Well played. So look, down close candle, closed above, act as support. So let's just follow that rule through, shall we? Closed above, acts as support. Lovely jubbly. I'll just do it with the same one as we go up to save that. So closed above, acted as support. Now it's kind of coming into it. Just interest here to see if we hold the 50%. Yeah, look how perfectly that wick touched the 50% there. Now we're getting back above this. All of a sudden, Ondo showing a little bit of strength here, right? In terms of key support and resistance, I bet you there's something here. We're going to zoom in and take a look at this in a minute, but I would be massively surprised if there wasn't some kind of SR level here. So let's get rid of those for a moment. Now we're going to go to our 4 hour. Yeah, resistance, deviation, resistance, 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 sells off, price breaks above, retest, and away we go. So, yeah, nice area there. It's definitely an area to be aware of, right? I would say. Yeah, so in terms of this, price coming down into here, I think is going to be bullish. Into here, you want to see it hold this, get back above. Yeah, either setting something like that, or you get a deeper move down to purge that liquidity, and then price gets back above. And then for me, that's, you know, that's game on then, I think, for this one. 4 hour, I think that looks really good there. If I want to refine it further, is there anything particularly holding this back on the hourly? I don't think there's anything necessarily cleaner as such. I quite like the way that this big hourly gap is continuing to hold price. It's been rebalanced now, though, so that's something we want to be aware of, right? As in, price has wicked through the bottom of that, so the gap's less relevant. We know this is an area that we want to see buyers. So actually, one thing you can see here, if you're looking for kind of lower time frame entries, certainly, for me, is this. Right, now this is very low time frame-ish, right? And it's not very clean, but look at all these upside wicks here. Yeah, and then the reason that I'm caught looking at this is because I can see a very, very clean section here. Why this? Because we've had rejection here. If we draw this back as well, you can see that it does kind of come into play with this area. It's not the cleanest thing in the world, right? And almost with this as well. But there's clear rejection here. This is a larger deviation. Price goes underneath, retests it, sells off. Resistance, strong close above, support, closes underneath. See the way it gets trapped under here. Yeah, so this is a bit of a low time frame look, but I'm really interested to see if this area holds. If not, like I say, then I'm a buyer down here, no problem on Ondo. XRP, this is another really interesting one, actually. I think I've got this on the perp contract. Let's have a look. Yeah, we're doing a lot of scalping on this, actually. Let's go to the Let's just go to the spot contract. Oh, you bastard. So you can hear that in the background. That is my new bit of studio equipment, actually. So they are going to have to wait, I'm afraid. So as we look at this here, we can see quite clearly all these scribbles, but key area of support down here we were looking at on the higher time frame. This is the kind of pivot point that we were looking at. So if we drive that forward, we can see here that we didn't get the move above as we were looking for. We can see here that was the expansion, looking for this hold and to move forward, or we were looking for this to reject and sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off. All right. All nice and simples. So as we move here, once we flip this area, which we can see we did quite nicely, then we had this really nice move higher. Now we can see it coming down into a little bit of a discount here. So actually, this is kind of, for me, still the line in the sand here, right? That's still the key. Look how on a daily that just means nothing but absolute gibberish. But how we knew on the higher time frame that this was the gap we were interested in, and this was the low that was capping the market to the downside, right? And then we've stayed above this. We've stayed above it, all right? Now we're back above this level here. I'm just really interested in this on the hourly. For me on this is so very clean. Every time we've ripped into this level, we've seen either a pretty strong rejection or a good pump. Rejection, rejection, small rejection. Look at the difference, right? When you see the small rejection, then price gets back above, look for the retest. The long is almost certainly on. When you see price get below, look for the retest. The short is almost certainly on. How do we know? We never know, but what we do know is that the probability is with us because we've seen multiple rejections here. Like this one, yeah? Fine, price gets above. Retests here, fine, you're shorting in here. But look, even if you get stopped out, it doesn't matter because then when it gets back above, you know the long is on. But if you're shorting here and you know you're wrong above this higher, yeah? Well, then you're only really having to trade down to this low for you to have a 1-to-1 risk to reward, and you can move your stops. You're 3.84% just for your stop loss, so your fees are next to nothing. So fine, you might have a break-even trade here where you skim a tiny bit of profit, but that doesn't matter. You can secure your risk. Then ultimately what you're looking for in here is the retest of this level to go long. All right. So as long as we hold this level, I'm just looking higher. I would need a breakdown of this level here. So price to come into here, recover this, and then we are moving to the highs. Oh, guys, you're going to have to hold on 1 second. I'm going to have to go and take these lights in. 1 moment. Apologies about that, guys. They are, well, to be honest, probably not the best idea to leave them outside in London. So it makes sense to bring them in. But some new studio lighting and bits and pieces for the new year. So plan to do a lot more camera work. Anyway, let's get this all finished up, shall we? So delete these dots. This is what I want to see for price to move higher. And if price wants to move lower, I need to see that strong breakdown. That means a full body candle. Retest, consolidation, and then I think we drop. Hence what we were looking for back here with our random squiggly lines, of which I think I deleted one, right? We're just looking for this to provide the pivot point. So that's exactly where I'm on XRP. VRA, there we go. Let's have a look. Little quick view for you there. Get my ugly mug off the screen before it takes up too much of the screen space. So let's have a look, right? XRP, VRA. Let's have a look on Bybit again. I've been using Apex a lot, right? Which is a decentralized exchange that we're partnered with who are part of Bybit. And the user experience has been really, really good so far. Henceforth, this is why I'm back on the Bybit charts at the moment, just while a few of the legal issues are worked out with legislation around here in the UK. So, okay, VRA looks nice here as well, right? Now, one thing that I would say here with VRA is losing this gap is certainly a little bit bearish, because this has now become resistance, right? Now, with a bullish gap, the same is true with the bearish gap, but once we close underneath it like this, this goes from being support to resistance. We see how price drove into this and then ultimately sold off here as well, right? At the bottom, that's our order block. Up, closed candle, closed below, perfect retest, price sells off. So where's our destination? I'd be very surprised if price didn't head for this. Right, that's where the key liquidity is going to be resting. That's at 0.004825. Okay, and what we want to see here, some kind of reaction, price getting back above or price failing to close below this level. Yeah, so we see that displacement. Looking back over here, just wondering if we've got any key support and resistance levels. I mean, if we look back here again, look at the wicks that led to these, these decent kind of pumps, especially something like this. Yeah, because that really is the base there of where price had a huge reaction. So again, if we just grab our, just put it in there. Again, if it doesn't fit all of this stuff back here, then so be it, right? I'm a lot more interested to say, okay, well, where's the key point here? Yeah, even if it's something like, that looks quite good there, actually. Yeah, even as we look back, we can see that there's some engagement with this line, right? Resistance, price gets underneath, retest, sells off, retest, sells off, resistance, price closes above. This area here is key. So looking at this as like more of a range, more of an area, then I think this is pretty decent here. I would probably kind of draw it maybe a little bit lower. So if I was looking to make this a box, I think I'd probably say something like this as an area. Right, so all of a sudden we've got a key area here. Look, support, 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 support. Underneath, big sell-off here. Now, we haven't really seen this area retested much as resistance. What we know, though, is it has a lot of history here as support. So these kind of consolidations, especially before price really sells off, that's what we want to see. Because if the sellers were aggressively here before, we want to see if the buyers are willing to step in. But this, strong close above, retested this area and away. So what would make sense to me would be for price to purge down here, but quite quickly recover. Then this is where we can look to be buyers. And then we just take it level to level on the way up. If we're looking for something with a bit more granularity, we move to our hourly. Again, look how prominent this, I wouldn't even redraw this level here. I think this is pretty much spot on. Strong rejection, close above, support, price sells up, support, price sells up, support. Small bounce here. But this is massively what we want to see in here. I think we want to see price come back down and then get back above here quite quickly and move higher. And then in terms of an initial kind of target, probably, even looking very, very locally, you'd say something like this. Yeah, resistance in here. You could even probably draw this area a little bit bigger to kind of incorporate that. Support, support, support. See how it sticks to this, gets underneath, resistance, resistance. So bids down here, or not bids necessarily, but if we get this kind of buying pattern, we can trade it to this level, wait to see if we get the rejection. If we don't get the rejection, I imagine there'll be an initial rejection, then want to see price again, get back above here, start to consolidate, and then we kind of trade it higher from here based on this. Okay, so that's where I'm with VRA. 2 more to go. We're going to do SUI. And then we're going to cover off on NEAR as well. And then I'm going to go and make a fresh cup of tea. And we're going to jump on the live trading session with members over at the Bird Nest and see if we can catch any of these moves live in the show. So obviously we'll be, focusing a lot more on intraday. So as I'm looking at this in here, what have we got? SUI. This is an interesting one, actually, because, again, we're going to look at here on lower time frame, and that I would imagine is going to be a nice level of support and resistance, which is fine. So again, we're coming into resistance, into support. Sorry, we've got equal lows below us. That looks like a good area for a raid and price to recover. Like I said, I'd love to see price a lot deeper than this. I really, really would, because it's just buying opportunities. Don't think people, maybe I'm wrong, maybe other people are wrong, but for me, being through, previous bull markets, this is the time when you want to see price lower so that you can ensure, because I didn't buy heavy enough down here in certain assets. I really, really didn't. I was focused very much on a lot of other stuff. We're building some incredible stuff over at the Bird Nest. It's been a really, really busy year, lots of traveling, nothing at all that I'm complaining about in any way. But it did mean that, my personal kind of exposure suffered a little bit to this. So I really want to see that. However, I do have a feeling that we could do something like this. Bullish gap down below us. Price draws down into that, but recovers this support and resistance level quite quickly to confirm this is a long downside wick, and then moves higher. I'm going to move this straight down here to the hourly now. And again, we don't really need to do anything with this level, right? If we look back here, we can see resistance, price comes underneath, retest, gets stuck in here, consolidates within resistance, sells off, retest, big sell-off down here. Really happy with that level. What happened? Price got back in here, small consolidation within it. We just hide that for a moment so it doesn't get in your way. Small consolidation in this area. Once we pop and close above it, you either long it here or you wait for the retest. Retest here gives some beautiful buying opportunities, right? So why not again? I think key thing here is watch price hopefully come down below this, get that reclaim here, and then I think we move higher. That's what I want to see, and I would love to see these equal lows taken out. Nice strong recovery, structural recovery, and then I think again we run really hot, and I don't really think there's much to stop price here, right, until we kind of get to this region. Yeah, resistance, sell off every time. Again, mitigate here or wait for price to consolidate above, and then we rip. One more, guys, and then I'm going to leave you all in peace for the week. All right, let's have a look here. Cool, kind of at a level here, right? You squish the charts up, and again, look at the long downside wicks here. I just kind of draw that in quickly. Now, this obviously isn't going to be perfect at this stage, but I would say to myself, all right, but if I want to take from the key highs to the key lows just over here, for example, maybe there is a real kind of long-term one here. So if I take from the body of that up to the top of these wicks, something like this. I think I've got a pretty chosty area here, actually. Resistance, support, deviation, price closes above, support, rips, down below, retest, sells off this area here, deviation, back underneath, sell off, resistance, over the top, support. So now we just need to see if this holds, right? As an extra kind of layer in here on the daily, we didn't take liquidity with this sweep, right? So it's not necessarily the highest probability order block, but I do really like it because of the way it kind of sits over here, and we can see in its previous interactions. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to focus on the bodies of the candles to bring it in tighter to this support level. Because look, price dipped into here, strong buy. Dipped into here again, less of a reaction, right? I now want to see if this area is going to hold. If price starts closing below this low, that means we're closing below the 50% of the order block as well. And the chances are that we see some continued form of weakness here. So again, I'm going to be aware of that when we're in here. But basically, the plan is this. If we come down below here, we start to consolidate, I think then we go lower. Again, you need to be aware of these key lows and gaps. Ideally, we want to see this, right? Consolidation above, price builds that base, and that's then when we can long this from here as well. Let's just take a look on the hourly. See if we've got anything else we can build in, anything else clear and obvious. Probably this level sits a little bit higher here. So this is interesting, right? Because this is our daily level. Now, what's to stop price finding support here? Because look, as we look back again, look at the wicks. Aggressive reactions from here, aggressive reactions from here to the downside, sell off. So I'm kind of looking at that very roughly to try and find an area. Something like that feels pretty good there. Yes, as we kind of zoom in, small deviation here, probably move that a little bit higher just so that we're not overly cherry picking these. You want it to go to the bodies really, but something like that. Resistance, 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 closes above support, 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 price gets bought up hard, support, deviation, comes up, retest again. So why not here again? Clearly an area that the buyers are, right? I would say with something like this, if we want to see this being the move higher, we want to see the higher here closed above quite aggressively, retested, and then we look to move higher. If not, then I think that's been swept. So I think this is the next key low, or we come down and take out this low and then recover here. All right, legends, apologies. I know that was a little bit longer for you all. Blessings to you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. If I don't speak to you before, I think I will, because I think I'll be live with you all again on Monday. For the rest of you Bird Nest members, look forward to seeing you in about 4 or 5 minutes. Once I've made a cup of tea, we'll jump into the charts and see if we can make some of these plans come to reality. We are quickly running out of time to make our 100R target for the year. We're certainly not going to add anything to our risk profile, but we're going to see how close we can get before the year is out. For the rest of you, you can find all the information down in the descriptions. Ryan, you're very welcome. NBA Young Believe as well. Pascal, everybody else that joined us today. Far too many of you to mention, about 3,500 watching live as we speak. Just want to take this opportunity, if I don't speak to you before, you're not here next week, to wish you all a fantastic Christmas. Please be good to others. Ultimately, be good to yourself as well. Look after your health, look after your loved ones around you. Get some downtime. Burnout is real. This industry is very, very demanding. If you are looking to pivot into this industry in any way, please do protect your capital. Please do be aware that there's so many scammers, fraudulent people out there. If you want to be part of an amazing community trusted by tens of thousands of people, you can find the information for us in the description. If not, I love you all the same. Just please, when you're out there, be good to one another. All right, there's enough shit in the world. Just take that time, speak to somebody that maybe not get spoken to. Be kind to your neighbors, your friends, your loved ones. And honestly, I think it really does come back, especially in times like we live in now, where there's so much selfish nonsense and so many idiots around. Good people, I think, go a long, long way. And apart from that, protect your capital, be safe, be smart, focus on your education. Don't try and do everything at once, and don't rush into these markets. Remember, you want to be buying when there's blood in the water, not when there's euphoria in the air. All right, legends. And for the rest of you, I'll catch you over at the Bird Nest shortly. Have a fantastic, fantastic week ahead and an even better Christmas. I look forward to seeing you either just before Christmas or again in the new year. Take care, legends.